I know lately we've been focused on what's been happening in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas, but something major just happened with Russia that could mean more of our US troops being deployed. Yet another treaty meant to keep peace after the end of the Cold War, in essence, is over. The United States and our NATO allies served notice yesterday that they will formally suspend participation in the 1990 Treaty on Conventional Forces in Europe. Now, you might be thinking, what the hell is that and why should I care? Well, the whole point of that treaty was to limit the number of US, Russian, and NATO troops, tanks, artillery, and aircraft in Central Europe. This treaty had been seen for decades as one of the cornerstones for European security after the breakup of the Soviet Union, and for years had prevented either side from building up their forces in the region quickly for a potential surprise attack. Now, before you freak out, this was not a surprise. Russia actually suspended its participation in this particular treaty back in 2007 and then announced its intention to withdraw back in 2015, then formally pulled out completely this week. And that's what prompted the US and NATO to announce that they too would suspend their participation. So why did Russia withdraw? Well, the Kremlin says it was because NATO had expanded its footprint too close to Russia when it accepted Finland and Sweden into the alliance, and said that undermined post-Cold War security. The US and NATO obviously disagree and criticized Russia for pulling out of the treaty, saying, quote, "It further demonstrates Moscow's continued disregard for arms control." The US and NATO said they had to respond, mostly because Russia has the largest military in Europe, and if they're not participating anymore, it's unfair and unsustainable for the US and NATO to participate. I want to give you a little more context by showing this all to you on a map. Maybe it'll help you understand a little bit better. So obviously Russia is right there. They say they are pulling out of this treaty because NATO is continuing to expand its footprint too close to Russia by adding Finland and soon Sweden to the alliance. Well, now that this treaty is basically frozen, this will allow the United States and NATO to expand its military footprint into these countries, including places like Romania and Bulgaria, which are NATO allies and just so happen to border Ukraine. This also means that the United States and NATO don't have to inform other countries of that troop deployment, especially countries that are sympathetic to Russia, like Belarus. So what does this all mean? Well, frankly, it just shows the continued deterioration of relations with Russia, whether it be with the United States or other European countries. By the way, this isn't the only treaty Russia has pulled out of. Last week, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a bill revoking Russia's participation in the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty because he said Russia needed to be equal with the United States. In February of this year, Russia suspended its participation in the New START Treaty, which meant Russia immediately stopped allowing inspections of Russian weapon sites and stopped sharing nuclear weapons data. And in 2019, both Russia and the US pulled out of the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, which banned the production, testing, and deployment of land-based cruise and ballistic missiles with short to medium ranges between about 300 miles and about 3,400 miles. Back then, both sides pulled out of that treaty because each said the other wasn't complying.